Basically
I'm as ready as you are in the back. Okay.
Check. Okay.
Does that mean we're on?
That's what they do in Megamind. Sorry.
How wild is this, huh?
What a turnout.
All I did. Are we actually going? Awesome. We were quoting Megamind. It was great. All right. Thanks for joining us. Welcome. If we mess up the stuff online, I am so sorry. But you're going to want to be able to see the images of what we're going to be talking through today. We've been breaking down the silent years, and it's been quite a
quiet ride.
Quite a quiet ride. Huh?
Never mind.
Yeah, okay, all right. I am here.
Sometimes the jokes are good, sometimes.
Great. It's very punny. So we've talked about Hellenism. We've talked about the synagogue. What group of people did we talk about last week?
Herodians?
No, that's this week.
Tonight. Just kidding. I don't. Sadducees.
Sadducees. They're the Zadokим, right?
Well, I was going to say that, but you stole my thunder.
Oh.
It's okay.
What do they call them in Hebrew tongue, Chelsea?
Sadducees. Oh, no. Zadokim.
The
You already took it. It's the moment's gone.
The Zadokim. That is the Hebrew form, but the Greek form of that word?
The moment's gone. Just go ahead.
Sadducees, which is what we call them. Basically a family, right?
Yeah, I feel like these are super hot.
They're pretty hot right now. But here we are. I guess we could hold them further away.
Probably.
So each week we're talking about this different groups, their response to what? There are different groups in the Jewish community that had different responses to a new worldview that was taking over, that was introduced by Alexander the Great. What is it?
You're talking about Hellenism?
Hellenism, yeah. And, oh man, I just went blank on the word itself, the Greek word that we translate as good news. Is that a uniquely Christian word? The one that we translate gospel or good news.
No, that was so loud. I don't know.
Good answer. Good answer. Is it on the board? It is. It is. The number one answer is no.
Loretta, do you know how to turn this down? I don't know. I can do this.
I think she's 6. Number 6.
Wow.
On the.
I just felt like a yell.
That's really good.
I kind of embarrassed myself.
Oh. Yeah, at least we can hear you. That's good.
Oh, boy.
All right. So last week in response to Hellenism, this good news of the gospel.
I was trying to think of the word.
The actual word? Now you're really quiet.
I was trying to think of the actual word, but no, it's not unique to Christianese.
It's definitely not. It started with Alexander the Great. Do you remember the 4 pillars of Hellenism?
I remember you wrote them right here.
I did, yeah.
But no, I don't remember. Give me one, and maybe I'll remember another one.
Well, one, yeah, they use gymnasium as the term.
Education.
For education. Gymnasium was the term for education, and we would think gymnasium, are we going to think like basketball gym that we would have today?
That's what we would think of, but that's not what they...
What did they say? In education, gymnasium would be like
I don't know.
Like a school, like a lecture hall. Mini
okay.
classrooms where they're educating people. This is very significant based on what we talked about in synagogue, right? Because synagogue, who trained there? Who learned at synagogue?
The priests?
All the kids.
Oh, wait, all the kids.
They're learning about rabbinical stuff, right?
Yeah.
But by age 9, if they couldn't quote all of the law,
they were sent to the gym.
They left. And here's Hellenism, the Greek culture coming behind and saying, oh no, you're not an outcast. We have a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
We have good news. There is still a place for you to get educated. And we will teach you what your culture cast you out and gave up on you. So this is a big deal. What was another part? Entertainment was big. What would we think ma'am, what would we think? You should. This should definitely be your thing.
Oh, theater.
Theater. Theater was a big thing that was brought by the Greeks. What else? There's two more.
Healthcare.
Healthcare. Yes. Hospitals. Expectation of like vaccination, sanitary habits, these type of things. These came from the Greek culture. And what was the last one?
I don't remember the last one.
It's I'm definitely involved.
Basketball?
Athletics.
I was thinking that was the same as entertainment.
No. Very
But
different.
You're right. Athletics.
Athletics was
I
the
was like,
fourth pillar.
basketball? What?
Which is why living in a Greco-Roman society, which is why Mark McGuire and Barry Bonds and Sammy Sosa ended up on Capitol Hill during the steroid era of baseball. Because if the integrity of a cultural piece begins to fall apart, you begin to lose control.
Mm-hmm.
So the integrity of a sport of athletics in the community is absolutely important for the control of the people who are in power, because they have to continue to come back to them.
Wow.
So definitely a Greco-Roman society. And these are the four pillars of Hellenism. And there are different responses to these things that were brought. Last week we talked about the Sadducees. They are the Zadokим. They're Levites. They're priests. Every Sadducee was a priest, but not necessarily every priest was a Sadducee, right? More of a political party kind of group, but they were very dominating. How did they view Hellenism?
But didn't they like it?
They liked it.
I think it was advantageous to them.
Absolutely. We talked about the house of the chief priest, we assume, because it's on the Temple Mount within 300 yards. It spanned a whole road.
Like 17 bathrooms?
Yeah, no. 17 rooms, 21 baths.
Oh, that's even more.
21 mikvah baths in this one house with 17 rooms. I mean, those mikvah baths are for ceremonial cleansing. And this is a massive estate that spans the main road going to the temple. So oversaw everybody who went there, super ornate. And so I mean, they lived life. They had a full life. Created the temple guard, lots of stuff. You should listen to last week. This week we're talking about their close relative. What do we do with the people who agree with that type of response to Hellenism, but aren't Levites? This is how simplified. It's not exactly that.
Because you had to be a Levite to be a Sadducee?
Yes, you had to be of the tribe of Levi to serve in the temple.
But not all Sadducees were Levites, but not all Levites were Sadducees.
Correct.
And all Sadducees were priests.
Yes.
But not all priests were Sadducees.
Yes, priests, Levites, same
thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I heard that said on that podcast, and I just needed to say it out loud, I guess.
So if we aren't priests, but we want what Hellenism has to offer, what are we? Oh, good.
I'm going to guess Herodians.
We are going to call them Herodians. They're mentioned and referenced. We're referencing based on King Herod. And there's going to be some significance to this. But referenced in Mark chapter 3, I think Mark chapter 12, Matthew chapter 22, that's where the name Herodian is specifically mentioned, and it speaks of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod in Mark chapter 8. So that's all of the mentions of this group of people in the Bible. Josephus, the historian, is going to mention them much more often. So, yeah. So there are some things about what Hellenism brings that the Herodians are really holding on to. One of them is it keeps them in power. How does this have anything to do with King Herod? How does Hellenism and the influence of Hellenism have anything to do with King Herod? Do you remember
There was a marriage.
there
I
was a
remember
marriage? Yeah.
that, and they made him king.
They made him king. King of who?
The Jews.
King of the Jews. So when we read in the New Testament that they hung signs over Jesus and called him King of the Jews, it was a call to Herod and a mocking of who Jesus was. Because Herod and his family was known as the King of the Jews.
Because he married a Sadducee daughter.
Right. And so how did that work out? How did they bring him into this place of power in Jerusalem specifically?
Well, he had all the money.
Yes. Where was he from?
I don't
Where was he king of, actually?
Oh, Persia?
No.
Give me a letter.
E.
Egypt?
No.
Edom.
Edom. Who? Yes. Who are the people? The people of Edom. Who are they? Descendants of a specific person.
Esau.
Esau.
Oh, man.
These are the descendants of Esau, which means they are sons of who?
Jacob.
No.
No.
Jacob is
Isaac.
Esau's brother. Isaac.
Isaac, yeah.
And Isaac's dad is?
Abraham.
Abraham. So these are supposed to be children of the promise too. Yes?
Yep.
And
I don't feel like they're missing out if they're really wealthy.
well, they've been in control of the spice trade.
Right.
Herod's father, and subsequently Herod, is the only place to get spices in the ancient world. So compare that to in today's vernacular, only one person has complete control and access to all the oil on the earth. If you're going to buy oil, you got to buy it from one person.
That would be very frustrating.
And that one person would be exceedingly wealthy. Not exceedingly poor. Exceedingly wealthy. To the point that if the most modest estimations of Herod's wealth are correct, it would be the equivalent to trillions of dollars in today's currency.
And I'm sure, like, what are his descendants doing now, you know? Like, I wonder if that's...
They're probably selling kosher salt. Just kidding. Anyway. And Rome's coming to town.
Mm-hmm.
And the Sadducees are worried that they're going to lose their power.
Correct.
And so they go after Herod.
Because he has money. And Rome has power, but they don't have any money.
Yes, Rome's biggest struggle was with finances. They had this powerful army, but they needed to be able to feed them and equip them. And so the Sadducees broker this deal between the Jewish people, or on behalf of the Jewish people. I was going to say
on behalf of, yeah.
Because they're the leadership at this time. They're the Hasmonean dynasty. And they put a king in place who's extremely wealthy. And then they broker a deal between Rome and this wealthy king so that Rome will let them continue to practice Judaism and continue to have their own homes and not have the oppression and destruction that Rome had brought in a lot of other areas. And so we've got this relationship now that really the Sadducees are benefiting from, but it's really between the king of the Jews, which is Herod, and Rome. And these people who are connected to the Herodian family are reaping the benefits. So there's a lot of power that comes along with that. A lot of authority that's handed out from Roman authority through the Herodian people. So they are the local leaders. They are the corrupt local government, as it is. And they also have an extreme amount of influence, so much so that there's this there's a community that we're going to get to and we're going to talk about that there's this Jewish uprising, that there's a zealot community. They are committed. We're going to learn about the zealots later. They're committed to overthrowing the Roman influence and Roman rule. What do you think the Romans did with them?
I don't know. Destroyed them.
They destroyed them. Matter of fact, leveled the entire town.
Oh, that
entire
seems
village.
excessive.
Stone by stone, turned the whole thing over, destroyed it.
The Zealots?
No, the
Mhm.
Romans.
No.
The Romans killed all the zealots, their whole families.
That's what I meant.
Yes, and flattened the village.
Didn't the... Well,
And
never
one
mind.
of
We're going to get
Herod's
to that. I was going to ask, didn't they live
and one of
somewhere
Herod's
else?
sons,
Right?
they lived in the Galilee.
Like out in the... away from everybody.
No,
That was somebody else.
that's the Essenes.
Never mind. This is so confusing.
The zealots lived in the area of the Galilee. And one of Herod's sons rebuilt a city on that site. And they built a Greco-Roman city that was inhabited by Jewish people. In the Hebrew tongue, it's Zippori. In the Greco-Roman, it's Zephyrus. Yeah, Zephyrus. And we're going to talk about that place. But the only reason they had the ability to do that was because of the influence of Herod in his relationship with Rome. That's the only reason they had the ability to rebuild that city. Otherwise, Rome would have left it in desolation and wouldn't have given them the opportunity or the funds to even be able to rebuild it. So these people are not only corrupt leaders inside the community, they have this influence with Rome, which also means, what else do they have? What else do they have access to? What else does Rome's influence and Hellenism in the community, what does it bring to them? What might you think it would bring to them? If they have power and influence, what comes next? Money. Money. Naturally, those
I see it
people
now.
those people are going to naturally have money. And that money is going to really bring about some things. So they're going to get to build cities that have plumbing.
Romans brought the plumbing.
Romans brought the plumbing.
Aren't we thankful for Romans?
It started with the Decapolis, the 10 cities that they built, all
Yeah.
modern day, had plumbing. And it's in the middle of the desert. So you go from this wasteland that is the desert, where you're hoping for water, and they
Pump it all in.
they have spring-fed wells and water that's accessible in the city. They have
They were clearly smart.
They have sewer.
Yeah.
So I mean,
They weren't just dumping it out the window in the street.
Yeah, they're not trying to dig a hole and maybe figure out how to turn it into compost or something. Like they brought full-fledged plumbing. And they get these amazing comforts. What we're going to see in this community of Zippori, lots of comfort. Houses that are 15, 20 rooms. I mean, palaces.
Do these things still exist?
Yes. Well, the ruins of them do, yeah. And we're going to look at some from this particular community.
Right now?
Yeah, here in just a second. These Herodians, they are powerful, influential, financially stable. Now here's the thing: they are very familiar with the Greco-Roman culture. They know what's going on, and they are committed to saying, "Hey, we can have this Greco-Roman, this Hellenism. We can have all the benefits of Hellenism and still worship God." So before you crucify them too much, before you get all judgy with them, let's just be honest about where we're at. Where might we be right now? Right now, physically, right now. Yeah.
In the same place.
Where are we? There's some pretty nice comforts right now.
I was like on a cushioned chair and some air conditioning.
With a microphone.
And microphone.
Live streaming on Wi-Fi with a
Yeah.
camera that might not actually be on because the power. Huh? There we go. Because the power flashed, or in everything. There was a rain. I would just call it a rain. It wasn't like a crazy storm.
No, it wasn't a
On
storm.
Saturday night, Sunday morning, I showed up and there was no power in the building. There's 2 little step-down transformers hanging on the pole outside, and I think us and T.H. Rogers didn't have power, and that was it. Everybody else in the rest of the town had power. And the 4-way stop sign, stoplight, everywhere else still had power. So
everywhere. I mean,
about
even the hotel across the motel across the street.
across
had
the
power,
street had
but
power.
we didn't have any.
So like at 3:30 in the afternoon, they finally got it back on. So
Ridiculous, but yeah, we're definitely sitting in some comfort.
yeah, air conditioning, fans moving.
I just would call that modern. It's just
Yeah.
modern comforts. It's not like I was gonna say it's not like there's really an option to do anything. Well, there is. You
There
just
is,
don't have
definitely.
it, so never mind.
Yeah.
Scratch that.
I've got an iPhone.
Be called first world privilege.
I've got even
For
up here on the stage, I have a portable battery charger that I charge my phone with while I was getting
They
stuff
so
ready.
conveniently stole from me because it was mine.
Wow.
Now everyone knows.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Got my Nike sunglasses, my Nike shoes. Like,
This is not a plug.
it's not, but
Okay.
got my belt that doesn't have. Anyway, go ahead. So there's a lot of comforts, and if I'm honest, I like a lot of these comforts.
Oh, agreed.
I mean,
I don't like just sitting and sweating. I think if I didn't know any better,
maybe
it'd be it is what it is. But
so the question that we have to wrestle with is how much is enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the technology and these advantages and these comforts aren't necessarily sinful in themselves.
No.
Like, I think that's an important thing to understand.
Mm-hmm.
But where is the line? And we're going to flirt with that line here in just a second. In this community called Zippori. So let's look at the first thing. Hit it. Ha-ha. This is a picture.
Yes, it is.
This is decumanus. So in every Greco-Roman city, there is the center of town is 2 crossroads. Cardo and decumanus. One runs east and west, one runs true north and south.
In every community?
Every Greco-Roman community.
Okay.
Yes, every Greco-Roman built city. This is in the community of Zippori.
Right now, today?
Yes.
That's a recent picture?
This is 4 years ago.
That's impressive. Because they didn't build that 4 years ago.
No, did not. Nope, this would have been in the 1st century BC is when this was built.
We can't even get brick roads from like the 50s.
Tell me what you notice about this. Tell me what you notice about this.
It's all circles and diamonds.
What else do you notice about it?
It's all colors.
This is tiny tiles.
Tiny
This is
tiles.
tiny stones. This is a mosaic.
And they're all pretty well the same size.
It's
not like they just kind of broke it up and then laid it out.
This is thousands upon thousands of small rocks made into this. This is a sidewalk. This is under an awning outside of a building, outside of a shop. This would have been very opulent for the time. This is very different. Now, we don't have because we're just now getting from Sadducees to Herodians, we're going to take a look at these pictures. When we get to the Pharisee cities and the Essenes, and we look at some of those pictures, you will understand the vast difference that is happening here. But this is extremely, extremely opulent. This is a street. People are walking on this. And this is culture. This is what Hellenism has brought the Herodians. This is definitely a Herodian city. And we're going to take our step into a house off of this road. We're going to step into a house that is clearly a Jewish house. Let's see if we can get to the next one. Bang. This is in the floor.
You say clearly a Jewish house, but to us that's not clearly.
It's clearly a Jewish house. I'm going to explain why it's clearly a Jewish house. Chelsea, why is this clearly a Jewish house?
Well, in Greco-Roman culture.
Okay, what would it be if this was?
He was explaining this to me earlier, and I'm like, no, answer the question. Why is it not a Jew? Why is it Jewish? How am I supposed to know that?
This is still Mosaic.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bunch of tiny stones.
I feel like they're even smaller.
All put together. What? That's a bunch of geometric shapes.
Mm-hmm.
What's not there?
Any image of a human or an animal.
Yeah, no images of people or animals. Why is that significant?
Well, because in the Jewish culture, it says don't worship carven or graven images.
Yeah.
And they took it very seriously, even in their flooring.
So even in their flooring, even in all their opulence and all, we're not including any of those things.
Yeah.
So we've got this Herodian group of people that are taking advantage of all of the luxuries. But this particular family is like, we are not putting images of any of these gods or any of the images of what might be considered a god. Because in the Greco-Roman world, what was not an image of a god?
I don't know that there was one.
Like pretty much
everything was represented.
Everything could be represented as a god. You could put an ox up there. You could put a sheep up there. You could put any animal or any person, and it could be mistaken for some type of god reference. Yes? Mm-hmm. So we're going to leave it out. So you get a lot of these geometrical shapes, but still extremely luxurious. This isn't a dirt floor.
It is not a dirt floor.
Right.
Well, no. It's tile.
Like this is, and that's a lot of work.
That's what I want in my mudroom, okay?
Yes.
Did you hear me? I want that in my mudroom.
You're going to have to order that from somebody else.
Just kidding.
Because, man.
Oh, that's pretty.
Here's another one. Same house, different room.
Very obviously still Jewish.
This one's actually in like the family room type of space.
So was the entire house tiled like that?
Yeah, most rooms in Herodian cities are going to have this type of tile.
In all the houses?
Yeah. Like 20 rooms. 20-room big palaces on streets that have...
cutting all that tile?
Well, that's a great question.
And what are they putting it down with? Because clearly it's better than what we use today.
Okay. I mean, maybe it is. Yes.
Say again? Oh, yeah.
It would take forever just to get the floors done. And so this is opulence. Like, how much does this cost?
I don't know.
In today's money, you're talking about one of these floors being $20,000 to $30,000 for a room. Yeah.
It's not cheap.
He said that's pretty cheap, which, I mean, if you're paying me to do it, it's going to take me a long time, piece by piece. This wasn't go pick something off the shelf at Lowe's that has all these already built into it and it's manufactured somewhere and you just lay it, put grout on it. This is stone by stone being built, being laid out and created specifically. Like this is artwork at its finest.
And I mean, think about the math that went into that.
Yeah, think about the skill and how many people did it take and how long did it take them?
And how well did they communicate?
And how much did they get paid?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's so much. There's so much detail.
I mean, is this like today's world where rich people pay poor people to do stuff at a decent rate?
Now you just buy the square and it has part of the pattern. You just have to line it up. It's not a big deal. That you had to actually do. No.
That's significant, right?
How many times did they mess up?
We're going to get to one here in a minute that's called the Mona Lisa of the Galilee and has 22 million individual stones in the whole piece of art. That's in the middle of the living room floor.
Who counted that?
Yeah, Kennedy did it. Yeah. So
What's the next one?
the next one we're going to go into is a little bit higher in the community, like literally elevation higher. House they call the Nile House, and we're going to start to see a little bit of a change, because they've bought into this process. At some point, we're going to get there. Great job. Here we go. Something's
Look at those
changed.
images. And also, they didn't care about their floor as much as the Jewish people did.
Something has changed here, huh? What's changed?
But also, look at the talent. I mean, come on. They
Yeah.
made it look like a real horse.
Oh man, I am not an artist. I'm not an artist. I'm not very good at it. I do appreciate going through art galleries, though. I do really appreciate going through art galleries and the work that it takes. And so the question is, can we walk through this and appreciate the art? And is this a point where people are like, well, there's no specific recognition of any God here. It's just, I like the artwork. I like how it looks when they start to bring these images into their home, because this is still floor.
Yeah.
This is still floor. We have to keep in mind this is still the floor. So this is all conversational piece stuff. This is all family get-togethers and community get-togethers, spaces that they are creating conversations. And a little bit showing off their wealth. This is the I would say maybe the equivalent to today. You have a good friend and everybody's getting together and they're like, man, I'm going to invite everybody so they can see my outdoor kitchen that I just put in and my new swimming pool. Like, yeah, it's nice. Do I really need it? But I want everybody to see it. This is this. I'm not, if you have an outdoor kitchen and a swimming pool, praise God. Just a point of reference.
I have a grill and a trough. I mean, that counts.
Could count. Brody did jump in that trough.
It's a swimming hole now.
Yeah. So I think it counts as an above ground swimming pool.
It does.
I think. If a kid gets a swimming suit on and jumps in a big trough, does it make it a swimming pool?
Yep.
Okay. We have a grill outside and an above ground swimming pool. So maybe, I don't know, there's a hot tub at our house.
So we can show it off. Absolutely. You can swim in the trough if you want to.
So, like, you can see how, like,
I'm
falling on the sword here for all of us. Like, I live a very Herodian life.
Oh, yeah. Same. Well, obviously we live the same
the same house.
You know what I mean?
All right, I'm going to continue on. But now something's changing.
Wait a minute.
This is a god.
Who is this naked man on the floor?
This is image. This is the image of a Greek god. Yes, it is bigger. Well, it's a bigger picture.
It's a bigger
It's zoomed
picture.
out. This is about. It's perspective-wise. That picture, that man in the floor, is about 8 feet tall.
Okay, even more impressed with the detail work then.
So a bunch of tiny, tiny stones to make that.
Okay, but not knowing who the gods are that they worshipped, I would just think this was some warrior man on the ground.
Yeah, I will. The next picture, which we're not going to yet, is going to be an image of a god, and it's in a different house, I think.
I thought you said this was
one. Is it
one.
still? This is a god, but a god that I know the name of.
This is?
No, the next one.
Oh, okay.
Does it still say it's in the Nile house? The next one is? Are there 2 more in the Nile house? Okay, this is what they call the Nile house. This is part of what they call the Nile house. And the next image is going to be of a Greek god that we know. It is Pan.
Who?
Pan, the Greek god Pan. He's basically a fertility god. He is the bottom half is a goat, and then torso of a man and the head of a goat.
No, that's man.
Yeah, it's a goat. But that's the Greek god Pan.
That is a man's head.
It is yeah. But it is
I've seen
the
a goat,
representation.
but it does not look like that man.
Okay.
Is it supposed to be a goat head?
He's a fertility god. He's a god of fertility. This is in their floor. Still a Jewish home. And so now we've still in the same house. They call it the Nile house. And we're going to show why they call it the Nile house in just a second. But still the intricate detail. This is why they call it the Nile house right here. This is in the center of the main family room. This is tells the story of the family. Why would this be important? Why would this be significant? Well, this tells the mythological story of the beginning of the Nile River. And while some people might argue, hey, this is about a conversation of the power and the thought behind this mythology of this Egyptian power and the Egyptian gods that our God showed his power over. And some people would say, well, it's just art. It's just art. They're appreciating art. They're appreciating the finer things in life, but still serving God. And then other people would say, well, you have all these images of this other culture and this other God worship.
I have to say, looking at it and listening to you, they didn't do anything, especially I feel like in this time period, without purpose. So everything that they did had a significance.
Yeah.
And I think we have, as we've gone through the years, we've lost some significance in what we do, some purpose in what we do. Oh, we just did it because I wanted to.
Yeah.
We just did it.
It fits the decor.
And there's there's sometimes an underlying significance in things that we don't necessarily know just because we aren't aware.
Right.
But this, to me, that was on purpose.
Right. You master planned that deal.
Yeah, you can't think that. I mean, I think in today's society, you could say, oh, it's just art. It's just pretty. I like how ornate and whatever it is. That was on purpose.
And this particular image is in the center of the main room they would have called a triclinium. So when they ate dinner, especially as a family or as an extended family, they would recline. When they say they'd recline at table, they would have seats around the outside of the room, and this would be in the center. So this is like what would be the modern day television. It would be the source of conversation. It would be the showpiece that would draw everybody's attention and be what they're having conversation around. This is what they're trying to show off. So it definitely is on purpose. And it definitely has a bunch of images that tell a specific story. And it feels like we're beginning to lose our identity of
was
God
the Nile
worship.
House considered Jewish?
Yes, it's in this community of this Hebrew Zipporah community, this Herodian city.
Okay. Now this one is on the street.
The decumanus is on the street, and then we had two pictures of a house that was kind of lower in the space, which means one of two things. Either it was lower down the hill, or potentially it was
not as wealthy.
Older. And then the next one, because in that area, what you end up getting is the excavation of, well, this is where everything's built, and then they're underneath, the high priest's house at the Temple Mount. It's being excavated and explored still right now, but that dig site is underneath a school.
Right, yeah.
A modern day school. So the different layers tells you the age of those particular houses. We're about to see from the Nile house, you leave the Nile house and you go uphill to another house that is either of a different socioeconomic status, because the higher on the hill, legitimately,
The wealthier you are.
the wealthier you were. And we come into this.
Whoa.
22 million.
I think a couple are missing.
22 million tile made up this originally. This is called the Mona Lisa of the Galilee. Where is Galilee? How many? What was a common reference to the 12 disciples?
The Sea of Galilee.
The 12 disciples were known as the Sea of Galilee.
Yep.
They were called
Galileans.
Galileans.
I know, but they were
from
Did
this
they not fish
area.
on the Sea of Galilee?
They did.
Okay, well,
Which would be this area.
I was just making a connection. I didn't say they were called the Sea of Galilee.
You know what there was about halfway between Zippori and Nazareth? A rock quarry.
That's convenient.
Nazareth, kind of a significant space. Yes?
Well, someone we know is from there.
Yeah, born and raised.
Also a carpenter, but not as what we would consider a carpenter. He probably did stuff like this.
Carpenter would have been a stonemason. This would have been their trade. That
makes so much more sense. It's not like he was making a table or rocking chairs.
That stone quarry is about halfway down the road between Zippori and Nazareth. Owned and run by Herod.
Shocker.
Probably, potentially, almost definitely, at some point, had a certain man named Joseph who frequented it.
The rock quarry.
The rock quarry.
No.
Because he was a mason. He was a builder. He was a carpenter. So Jesus was definitely influenced and interacted with this Herodian worldview and experience. But here in Zippori, in this, now we have this major happening mosaic. Still a bunch
There's not a closer up picture of it.
There is. What's the next picture? This is a representation and believed to be the woman of the house, the matriarch of the house.
Mona Lisa, was that her name?
It's called the Mona Lisa of the Galilee for this picture right here.
Yeah.
But she's surrounded by these cherubim.
Mm-hmm.
This, when we said earlier that that those geometric shapes are clearly that they are clearly Jewish in nature, that those because a Greco-Roman house is going to have all this nudity and gods and images of all these other things, and this is what we're talking about. This is still in this Hebrew community. Yeah.
The tile just got
Right,
worn
it's
out,
just been broken down.
probably.
This is modern day pictures.
I know, they're missing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely got worn away. And it just, the detail is
I can't get over it.
incredible.
Yeah.
The craftsmanship of this is amazing. But the next picture is going to show us the dead center of this 22 million piece. That picture right there in the dead center is a representation of the Feast of the Gods. And this god who is the god, I can't remember his name right now, is the god of wine and party and orgies, is drinking Zeus under the table. This is the representation that is the dead center of this particular room.
And I feel like if we've learned anything in having dissected the word so far, that the dead center has so much significance.
Yes.
So for them to say, "Oh, I worship God," and then put that in the dead center of,
and you see Pan over there on the side.
Yeah.
Like, we have all of these Greco-Roman gods all represented in this 22 million piece mosaic in the floor that is the center. And so how much, maybe, potentially Bacchus or Bacchanalia, yeah. I don't remember. But at what point have we gone too far in our Herodianism?
Well, I feel like this would for sure be.
And how much of our Herodian lifestyle, before it becomes a slippery slope, before we're leaning on the provision of Hellenism more than we're provision of God? And how much of this is actually present in our own life? Like, this should be one that we seriously wrestle with. This response to Hellenism, we should significantly wrestle with, because this is the world we live in. Now, there's going to be some really important things about these people, the Herodians. What is something that is potentially really redeeming and purposeful about this group of people?
Well,
if this is a believer who is familiar with this, their way of thinking, their way of doing life, couldn't they be really effective about reaching them for Christ?
Yeah.
I mean, they have some inroads and some opportunities to really influence and use this power and influence to make a difference. Now, the slippery slope is,
do they actually do that, or are they influenced by someone else?
Yeah.
But, I mean, the same can be said for all of us.
And so the question then, again, becomes like, how much is not enough? And this is why I say that rock quarry between Zippori and Nazareth is important, because, like, even Jesus quotes theater, common theater to them. So he definitely had.
He quotes theater?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Troy gathers her hen as a mother, or gathers her chicks as a mother hen gathers her. Yes, gathers her young. Gathers her young as a mother hen gathers her chicks. I mean, that'd be a quote from a play, from the theater. So he definitely had been exposed.
I was gonna say, it's not like you didn't know.
To
you know
Herodian
where you are. Yeah, you know what you
world,
grow up in.
to plays, to theater. So, like, how much theater is too much theater? You know? I just think it's interesting, and this is the Herodians. This is a group of people and their response to Hellenism. And this is the world that Jesus is growing up in. This is the world where we see the gospel and we see the life of Christ, and where we're going to this is the world we're going to interact with as the New Testament shows up. This is the stage. We've got 3 more groups to get through in their response to Hellenism. But this is one we're going to have some discussion and conversation over, and one that I think we should really pay attention to and wrestle with, because we live here.
Yeah.
Whether we want to admit it or not, some people less inclined or less comfortable with, some people more comfortable with. But this is where we live. I mean, I don't know too many people who don't have a smartphone. So this is just a wrestling that we have to have, and we're going to have a conversation about it and continue to look at it. But I think it's eye-opening to recognize the world that Jesus is growing up in. And so join us next week as we continue.